Okay, hi everybody. We're
Hi,
back.
everyone.
Welcome to Stacks and Stories. I'm Laura Gordon, the elementary librarian,
And I'm Kathy Kramer, the secondary librarian.
and today we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics that we talk about all the time, kind of in a very librarian way, and that is the topic of graphic novels.
Oh my gosh, we love graphic novels.
We do.
And if any of your friends or teachers say, oh, get a real book, not a comic book, tell them to come and talk to us because graphic novels are real books.
And they're real reading. And I talk to my students about this all the time. And actually, I don't have to talk to my students as much as I have to talk to adults about this, because there is a pervasive feeling that these kind of books, graphic novels, are not real reading because they're not in chapter form as we know them. But we're going to talk about the benefits and some of our favorites.
And they use two sides of your brain because there are two languages involved. What are the two languages?
You tell them.
Visual language because of the images and text language. So you're actually having to use a lot of brain power to detect the images and even each panel, and also understand the words. So it's really like reading a film. Do you know who started graphic novels?
I'm sure someone who was very clever.
Well, they started way back in Egyptian times because they had hieroglyphics. They had images and words. How do you like that?
I mean, we're just carrying on ancient traditions here.
One thing, when I was a kid, well, maybe ninth grade, kind of a big kid, do you remember reading Romeo and Juliet?
Yes.
Yeah. And did you really understand it at first? Do you know that it was a love story?
Yeah.
I read the graphic novel, just one page of the graphic novel, and I learned what was happening in the town of Verona just by looking at the pictures. And I learned about the fighting that was going on just by looking at the pictures. And I understood the relationships between Romeo and all of the townspeople. And I learned how he met Juliet just from one page.
Right. And the interesting thing about a graphic novel where people say, oh, it's not real reading. So just like Kathy said, it's two languages. You have to know, understand, and look at the pictures to what's going on, the text, but also how to read the page, because how to read the page is also an important skill. We like to talk about graphic novels. I do, especially because I do elementary, as kind of gateway books into having them read novels and chapter books. And in the elementary, we even start them out in the youngest. So like this is level 1 reader graphic novels, level 2, and then they progressively get more difficult as the kids are more interested. Now, what I find the most interesting is that I can get kids to read historical fiction by introducing them to graphic novels.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. What's the difference between a comic strip and a graphic novel?
Okay, that's a great question, and that's kind of the most common misconception. A graphic novel is a continuation of a story. You follow the character plot, you follow the setting, you follow the timeline. It's a continuation of a story, just like a novel or a chapter book would be. A comic strip is like 4 frames and then it's done. Think Garfield, think Snoopy. Those are comics. Even the comic books, Spider-Man, those are comics. The story ends. It doesn't continue.
So when kids come in and say, I want a comic book, I say, we don't have comic books.
That's what I say.
We have graphic novels. So if you want a comic book, you have to look in what used to be the newspaper.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we have so far to tell you about graphic novels.
We want to talk more about books that we like.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So because we want to talk about there's different genres. So graphic novels aren't a genre. They're a medium, okay? It's a way to write books. So I want to talk to you about some different genres within the graphic novel. So two of my favorites, El Defo and The Dumbest Idea Ever, are memoirs. So these authors are actually writing about themselves, drawing pictures, telling about their life. So memoirs. Then you have what I talked about was historical fiction. This is the I Survived series. First came out in a chapter book, but then adapted into a graphic novel. You want kids to learn about the sinking of the Titanic? They will gobble up a graphic novel. Now, another one, and I just talked to you about the gateway little ones, but one of the things that I like, and the one Kathy's going to show you, is that you can read about, kids can read about themselves at a young age in a graphic novel. And this one, Living with Viola, is a great one because it talks about anxiety. And Livy is a character in this book, and she is moving to a new school, and she has to deal with being the new kid. And she's got this, her anxiety shadow is always following her. And her anxiety is named Viola. And she has to figure out how to keep Viola and her anxiety away. Like, this is powerful information in the form of a graphic novel.
Yep.
Okay, you go.
And Laura brought a good point. Every student wants to see themselves in a book. And so many graphic novels are kids of all ethnicities. They're from all over the world. And so it's a really nice fit for kids. This book I love, and I think this is a very good first graphic novel. It's about two sisters that go with their family on a road trip. And the writer, Raina Telgemeier, she talks about her sister, her real life sister in the back of the book. And she even has photos of her sister and her. So this is a really good, the very first graphic novel.
You have a bookmark.
I read, and I love it because it has how the anatomy of a road trip. And when you go on a road trip, everyone has their seat with their certain snacks. And I remember this book. When I think of this book, I think of the road trip and how I have my snack set up. Love this book. The other thing is I love reading historical fiction. I love reading classics in graphic novels. I read one on the Constitution, and now I understand it fully. There are books about certain periods in history in graphic novels. There are songs in graphic novels. So we encourage you to try them out. You won't forget them ever. So that's what we have for you today. From our library to yours, signing out. See you next time.